Good evening, everyone. Today is April 22nd, 2025, and you are watching The Jenny Show with me, your host, Jenny Wright. Thank you so much for your patience yesterday with the postponement. We postponed our series premiere out of respect for Pope Francis. So, thank you for your flexibility and understanding as we did that. And we're back here today. So we have two big stories to get into today. The first one is that it's been 9 years since the Paris Climate Agreement has been signed, and after two withdrawals, how is the U.S. doing environmentally? And then our second story comes out of Arkansas with a new law that's about to be enacted that actually puts the people over the profit. Now, let's get into it. This is The Jenny Show, where the stories you didn't hear about become our biggest headlines. From underreported voices to overlooked policies, we get into all the systems that shape our lives. No spin, just truth, context, and a little bit of fire. Now, let's get into it. So today marks 9 days exactly since the Paris Climate Agreement have been signed. And of course, the US is in its second withdrawal of it. So where do the US stand exactly on environmental issues? Well, that's interesting because, okay, actually, before we get into this, so let me just say this. I am not an environmental scientist. I do not consider myself an environmentalist. I do recycle, I do care about the environment, but I will admit that if you're looking for all of the correct answers all of the time, then this is not the show for you. You probably, like, not even being funny, but you probably want to read a publication like Gris, as that's what they focus on is environmental issues. So I wanted to say that before we got started. But with that, so with the Paris Climate Agreement, former President Obama signed it in December 2015. That was going to create would cool down the environment 2 degrees Celsius by, I believe it was 2045. And so, flash forward to April 2016, it gets officially signed. Yay! We're on to a Green New Deal. Well, November 2016 comes and Trump is elected for his first term. So he gets out of it, which actually didn't happen until November 2022. But either way, there was a withdrawal from us being in the Paris Climate Agreement. So, of course, we know November 2020, he lost the election to former President Biden. So Biden, on day one, did an executive order re entering us back into the Paris Climate Agreement. And then, of course, Trump took the same course just back in January and reversed us back out of the Paris Climate Agreement. So that is the backstory for those that, may not fully understand what all the flip flopping about this agreement has been about. So currently, we are withdrawn from the Paris Climate Agreement. However, has it made any difference? Honestly, I'm not sure because greenhouse gas emissions had already dropped approximately 12% between 2005 and 2023. And when you look at 2023, we had a really bad environmental record. I mean, that was the biggest year on record for oil and gas drilling. And you could see the effects because the last year in 2024, the US spent approximately $28 billion on natural disaster recovery. I mean, we had some of the worst storm systems that this country has seen in a long time, and that's not stopping. We know right in January, California just had those devastating wildfires. There have been wildfires down in the Carolinas. There has been intense flooding that has been occurring for months down in Kentucky, down in Arkansas, down in Tennessee, and other places across the South in the Midwest. So, unfortunately, I'm not saying that climate change is solely to blame for these natural disasters, but it certainly played a part in these natural disasters. And so, with this, the US is not going to stop spending billions of dollars on natural disaster relief due to climate change. I mean, and there has been some state legislation about this. And if I'm being completely honest, the states, they are moving faster than the federal government on this. We know that 24 governors, including the governor of Puerto Rico, are a part of the U.S. climate action, which is just that how can their states improve on climate change? Surprisingly, Texas, which I know a lot of us don't think of Texas necessarily as being the clean energy hub, but they have made big strides in the wind power industry. Now, I do understand that wind power does not work everywhere, that in creating these clean energies, there are some things that it makes noise pollution for one thing. So I do know that there's a lot of stake, and just like solar energy wouldn't be the most renewable energy source for certain states and certain localities. I know wind power does not work everywhere. The reason why Texas is so good with wind power is because they have more rural lands than urban lands. And so the space to properly conduct wind power, they have the facilities to do so. If you compare it to, New York, LA, Chicago, these really big, heavy, urban, dense areas just would not be able to hold that capacity. With the wind power. In addition, speaking of Chicago, the state of Illinois have also created a climate and equitable job commission. And so this isn't just about climate change, but it's also helping those lower income and BIPOC communities that are often left out of the conversation, despite the fact that they have the most intense damages in most environmental injustices. With this, they're trying to help bring about jobs and clean energy solutions, and really find equitable solutions that can work for both of their rural residents, as well as, again, looking at those lower income inner city neighborhoods that people often um, overlook. Now, I'm not going in this and saying that, oh, the Paris Climate Agreement is so bad, so terrible. Oh, the U.S. should never join, re-enter the agreement. I am not saying that. Again, I don't have all of the answers. I'm not going to sit here and say what is the best solution. That is not my expertise. I will say that when the United States were a part of it, it was a gateway of how things can be and should be, but it's not the reality. The reality is, like I was saying, lower income people in both rural and urban neighborhoods are often left out of the conversation. This also affects minority majority communities as well, your immigrant communities, your black and brown communities. They are left out of the conversation. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but maybe you are. But lower income neighborhoods have gas and electric bills that are 3 times the price of their suburban neighbors. So you have people that are working paycheck to paycheck to make ends meet in our rural and in inner city areas, and then they have these high inflated bills that could be hundreds and hundreds of dollars, while they may be living in small apartments and trailers and places like that, while our suburban neighbors that may have houses that are 2,500 square feet are having lower energy costs. And that's not right, and that's not fair. And I'm not saying, oh, let's be mad at our suburban people. No, this is not an issue against individuals, but I am making a point against the system that this is not right. People already don't have enough money. And then for the energy conglomerates, I know Exelon is so guilty of this for overcharging people who don't even have the square footage to have enough. And then light heat programs are at risk due to this cutting that Doge just did. This is bad. Summer is coming. People are going to overheat. People are going to stroke out because they don't have enough money for their air condition costs. And then on top of that, even if you're not looking at home energy, you also have to look at pollution. There is higher pollution in lower income neighborhoods, hence why inner city children have higher incidence of asthma. And so then they have more healthcare costs. And this is not just a solely inner city area. The same thing is happening to, again, our rural neighborhoods, our lower income suburban neighborhoods. These people that live near factories are dealing with cancer, are dying from cancer. Like literally our neighbors are dying due to the environmental injustices that is going on, and that's not right, and that's a shame. And so again, I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if we should re enter the Paris Climate Agreement. It seems like we were doing a lot better when we weren't a part of it. I don't believe that fossil fuels it, is the answer, that's for sure. But I know that we're not doing a great job in this country protecting our environment and protecting our people from the environment. Do you realize that the only country that has more pollutions and burns more fossil fuels is China? This is not something we should be competing with the Chinese about. It's not. I I, I can't just emphasize it better. So today is Earth Day. Today is the 55th anniversary of Earth Day. It is the ninth anniversary of the Paris Climate Agreements. And we are not doing that well in making sure that our environment is safe and protected, and that our people are not exposed to environmental, our US residents are not exposed to environmental risk. And for our second story of the night, an Arkansas bill is putting people over profit. This is the first of its kind bill of the nation, and it will be fully effective by January 1st, 2026. And basically, what this is doing is banning pharmacy benefit managers from owning pharmacies. So, these pharmacy benefit managers basically own pharmacies in both insurers like CVS. In fact, CVS had a lot of opposition to say about this bill. But the reality is that because they own both the insurance, they are just price gouging on the people. And this is why insulin costs are so high. This is why EpiPens are hundreds of dollars. Other life-saving medications that people need are hundreds of dollars, even with insurance, are the way because the insurance the insurers also have a hand in the pharmacy. And basically, these primary benefit managers are in control of 80% of the pharmaceutical market. And CVS have 23 pharmacies just in Arkansas alone, and which is why they're opposing the bill, because they know that they're most likely going to have to be closed. Now, this isn't nothing new. This didn't come from anywhere. Arkansas had previously fined the pharmacy benefit managers, the PBMs, $1.47 million for underpaying the local pharmacies. This is also a detriment to our local pharmacies, our neighborhood pharmacies, the people who have been around for decades taking care of the neighbors and making sure that they have their healthcare needs taken care of. And thousands of complaints were filed in 2024 about PBMs violating state laws on their reimbursements. And so now, I know there was a lot of concern with this bill about mail order pharmaceuticals. The bill will allow for limited permits for the PBMs to provide the pharmaceuticals that aren't otherwise available on the market. So, if you do have some type of special medication that would not be available in Arkansas, this would allow access for people to still get certain mail order pharmaceuticals with certain provisions. And also for TRICARE, the military health care, the patients will continue receiving their medication during the transition. And actually, not only was Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders a ardent supporter of this bill, hence why she signed it, Attorney General Tim Griffin advocated for the law. He pledged to defend it in court if there are any lawsuits, and he led a bipartisan letter from 39 other state attorney generals that are calling for similar federal legislation. And he previously sued Express Scripts and Optum RX for alleged misuse of pharmaceutical data related to opioids. I know that just recently there was a lawsuit with Walgreens, and so I don't know exactly if Attorney General Griffin was involved in that measure. I would have to fact check that and get back to you, but I do know that people are speaking up. People are saying, "Hey, hey, hey, we we need to protect our citizens instead our constituents over this profit. You can't keep getting rich while you're overcharging people, while people are literally stroking out on the street and having heart attacks because they cannot afford their pharmaceuticals, their needed medications." And I also know that there was a concern for job loss if certain pharmacies do shut down, like those 23 CVSs. Act 52 will create new pharmacy jobs that could make up for any job loss brought by HB 1150, which is the act that will end PBMs from owning pharmacies down in the state of Arkansas. So, this is today's episode. I'm going to wrap up. I am so excited that you all tuned in and listened to this. Please feel free to, oh, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That's how, we grow and get money. And if you want early access to our episodes, please go. Please feel free to become a Examiner Plus subscriber. For $5 a month, you get ad free and early access to The Jenny Show, among other features that we have for our Examiner Plus and Examiner Premium subscribers. In addition, please share this. Please like, please follow on whatever podcast you all listen to. In addition, before I completely close, please feel free to share your comments on how you feel about environmental matters. Please let us know about any community activism, especially that is going on in the environmental justice realm, especially as it pertains to our lower income rural and communities in inner city areas. And also, please let us know your thoughts on this first of a kind law that's going on in Tennessee, and I mean in Arkansas. How, if you are in Arkansas, how you may feel about the law and how it's going to benefit you, as well as your ideas of advocating for bringing this law to your state if you live in one of the other 49 states. Thank you again so much for listening. All comments, suggestions, questions, story tips are greatly appreciated. Have a good evening, and we will see you all tomorrow. We have a great story for you all. It's involving a missing persons case, and so please tune in around 6 p.m. to hear more about that.